from required landscape setbacks enables the project to be designed to ensure safe circulation for all types of vehicles and to meet the city's off-street parking and site circulation standards. Without the reduction, the project would need to be substantially redesigned and would negatively impact the feasibility of the site's development. This is a table illustrating the development standards. As we can see, a majority of the development standards are in compliance, but the landscaping, which has been reduced in some areas, which requires a variance. And then we have minor exception number 2024-03. The applicant is requesting approval of this minor exception to allow continuance of the overhead electrical feed to the site and existing on-site power pole located in the center of the site to remain in order to provide electrical service to the new commercial building and surrounding properties. Southern California Edison spoke about this and researched the property, met on site with the applicant, and they said that undergrounding and relocating the existing power pole will be disproportionately costly to the applicant and are beyond the typical range of cost experienced by most developers in Santa Ana and will make the project infeasible. Public Works Agency analyzed the option and determined that relocation or undergrounding is not a feasible option. Approving the minor exception to allow the overhead electrical feed will prevent the applicant from having to trench across West Warner Avenue to route the electrical feed. The continuation of the overhead feed will also be consistent with the streetscape, as the power poles are currently located on the south side of Warner Avenue, continue on the east side of Bristol Street, and the majority of the properties to the north of the property are being fed through overhead lines currently. The continuation of the overhead feed will not have any negative physical or aesthetic impacts to the surrounding properties or general welfare of the residents in the vicinity. Based on this analysis, the project is categorically exempt. Environmental review number 2023-19 will be filed for this project pursuant to section 15303, class 3, for new construction of small structures. Staff recommends the adoption of a resolution approving CUP, variance, and minor exception, all as conditioned. In addition, the staff is recommending a condition of approval to be added to each resolution to memorialize the proposed public art on the building. The condition would read as follows. Prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall, consistent with the project elevations approved by the Planning Commission, construct a public art piece on the building consisting of a combination of painted element and solid building materials such as tiles, glass, or metal. The final design of the art piece and its materials shall be approved by the Planning Division prior to issuance to the building permits for above-ground construction. Staff, as well as the applicant representing the project, Amir Houriani, are available to answer any outstanding questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
Yes, I very much appreciate that discussion of art on the outside of the building. I was going to bring it up as a concern of what that's going to look like in that corner, because you're going to see the building from the corner. You don't have a problem with the reset of the vegetation, or used in 15 feet, as long as it looks pretty in that corner. Could you go back and put your diagram of the plot site and pinpoint where that telephone pole is going to be?
Sure. So here's the site plan. The power pole, I believe, is located here. So we have some landscaping there that'll be maintained in between parking spaces. And so that's where the power pole is currently and is being proposed to remain.
Is that going to be built up around it so you don't just see the pole standing there, or what are plans?
There is no intention as of right now, but we could landscape it, something like that, but it would remain just a power pole.
Okay. I think if you could landscape or at least hide it a bit before you run in to see it, I think it's fine. And I do understand the reasons why it's very difficult to remove that on it. More out of curiosity and not to affect the project, but what's going to happen to Starbucks across the street?
According to the applicant and Starbucks, they are to remain across the street, and this is a secondary site to offload any of the amount of traffic that's already currently going on there.
I'm fine.
Commissioner Scamilla.
Yeah, no, I think, pretty understanding of the applicant's, I guess, conformance with the Bristol Street widening plan and standards and everything else that's kind of allowed there. I think it's just, again, every time we get these Bristol projects, we do end up with, I'd say, kind of car-centric design, right? 13 parking spaces, 190 feet worth of stacking, roughly what the FAR is 0.07 on this one, when the FAR could go up to 1.5. So again, it's more of the, when seeing projects like this, this was a site that essentially had a liquor store, which, probably the neighborhood's happy has gone away, a tire shop, and what looked to either be offices or maybe even a dwelling unit above the liquor store. So, just, for this one particular site, we're essentially, in our development history, kind of, at least for me, going backwards, where we have less intensity of uses along what could arguably be considered one of our largest corridors, right? So Bristol and Warner. So nothing really to knock the project specifically, but I would caution that, if we continue to essentially not look at the Bristol Street plan, we will continue to get projects that are, I would say, not the highest and best use of the land that we have, available to us. So I would take that into consideration as we start reviewing these projects in the future. So that's just really more of the overview. And I guess to this site specifically, is there anything that's included in the design to allow for additional or potential connection to a parcel north of it? So again, just because these strips are a little bit more limited as far as access points, sometimes allowing for reciprocal access agreements, or at least having that included in the initial design, might be worth considering. I don't know if there is anything here where we can kind of incorporate that earlier rather than trying to figure that out later. So I guess that's really the only question. The rest were just observations.
Yeah, I think the challenge there is if we do link it somehow to the north, the property at north, we would lose parking spaces that are pretty valuable, especially in regards to the site. So that would be kind of the challenge in design.
Yeah, no, but I guess for me, it's I can have. It definitely is a possibility of losing parking spaces, but if you have a little bit of flexibility of uses, right? So it's like two parking lots next to each other. If they're independently impossible to get to, yeah. Sorry, yeah, I'll leave you on.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Like many site plans, this one is built or designed with adaptability in mind. So should that opportunity become available in the future, I can say that it wouldn't materially damage this project to shift the driveway north and take advantage of that extra capacity that you're describing.
Yeah, just if this allows for the flexibility, it's really all I'm looking to, again, just as the corridor finally heals from the destructive path that was the Bristol Street widening, I do think that we should allow for those opportunities during the site design review. And I guess on the art, I'm sorry, where is it facing exactly on the site plan? I just, is it going to be something similar to maybe the, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of the Starbucks on Grand Avenue, maybe, or yeah, it's kind of similar scale.
Yeah, nothing's been proposed yet, but as you can see, they do have, on the elevations, they do have kind of a mural, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. That's all I have for now.
Commissioner Leo.
I'm scratching my head right now because I lived through and I was part of this planning commission when we put a CVS and a Rite Aid across from the street from each other, and 10 years later we had a vacant, one or the other. Now we're going to take the word of Starbucks and the applicant and put another Starbucks across the street and say, oh, economically, it's going to work. And we could, in 5 years, have an empty Starbucks on one of the sites. That's what I'm scratching my head about. I don't have an issue with what you guys have presented. But from an economic standpoint, we, the city, are going to bear the brunt of a business decision by Starbucks who think economically that it's going to work. I'm not comfortable with being at the whim of a corporation to say, oh, this is what they should do. But be it, that's their business decision, but that doesn't mean I have to approve it. And so at this point, while the project is a nice project, you've spent a lot of time doing it, it's not something that I want to see happen on the corner. If it was something else, I'd be okay with it. So basically what they're saying is, our queue's too long across the street, so we're going to add. Why not just add where you're at? Why didn't they do that? You want to take another parcel? So besides that, what Commissioner Escamilla raised are other issues we're gonna have to deal with on Bristol. It's just an ongoing thing. But my comments are, appreciate the work by staff, not okay with being subject to a corporation's decision to put two basically identical sites across the street from each other, and then we'll live with one if one makes it or one doesn't. So that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Commissioner Wu.
Thank you for doing your homework and collecting all the documents. I do have a concern that that corner is a very dangerous corner because of the traffic going north and south and east and west. And there've been many accidents that I've been witness going up that street. So my concern is similar, and I did not hear your response. I just didn't hear it when Commissioner Carl asked you about the Starbucks across the street. What was your answer again?
Well, the question, what was that the Starbucks will remain across the street? Open,
Yes.
is that what you're?
Right. So it will be open for business, so you have two Starbucks operating.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's the intention.
There's actually 8 to 9, depending how you want to count it, of Starbucks up and down Bristol, starting at that point, down towards South Coast Plaza. I like the idea of a neighborhood gathering place to get people out of the neighborhood and they could sit, but it does raise a logical question if you don't hang out at a place across the street right now. Well, what does one block mean? I mean, are we doing the Jets versus the other gang, or what is it that keeping us on one side of the street and not on the other? So it does beg the question about the logic of this, and in our decision making, should we be concerned about oversaturation and how that impact traffic flow in that area with drive-through gathering places that people release at different time, particularly since it bunches up during those heavy traffic time of people getting off work or going to work, and lunch time hour is what I observed. I know one neighbor got someone crossed 3 lanes over to hit her to make it into a driveway there in that shopping center across the street. So it makes me kind of really concerned what we have. On the other hand, that property had been sitting there vacant. They tore down the emergency ambulance place, and it could use some development, but I'm not sure about this development.
Commissioner Pham.
Thank you, Chair. Matthew, there's a few plans in the packet. Some plans shows the eastern portion of the site with a ingress and egress, and one plan shows it with a, I believe, right turn only. Which one is it? Is it a right turn only on the eastern side of the lot?
That's correct. So there's a right turn only. So on the east of the property, you can either make a left and head towards to the west to the Bristol Street, or you can make a right turn only and then exit onto Bristol, or I'm sorry, Warner. There's also Magnolia Avenue. They have something to stop that. So stop people from making left-hand turns and going through the neighborhood as cut through traffic.
So currently, without the curb improvement, it's a in and out access. That's Magnolia, right? At the bottom of the
That's correct, yeah. It doesn't have this pork chop, the way that it juts out in this.
So the neighborhood, have we gotten any feedback from the residents that they're no longer going to be able to access that street?
That's correct. And I believe Public Works reached out to the neighborhood and they were in support of this.
And then I'm concerned about the neighbor directly adjacent to the lot with the trash enclosure essentially right up against the property line, obviously with a 34-foot setback from the property line. Has there been any feedback from the residents in terms of that positioning of the trash enclosure?
We did reach out to the neighborhood, and there was no pushback nor any sort of pushback from the neighborhood that's immediately adjacent to this property.
And then kind of similar on the same line as Commissioner Escamilla, it looks like we're providing more parking than is required, but yet we're asking for an exemption on reduction of landscaping. Are we prioritizing potential present and future parking needs over the required landscaping, or what was the design thinking there for the trade-offs?
I think there was a lot of things on this peculiar, the way this site is because of the street widening. I think there was a lot of design challenges, and we were able to meet a lot of them. And according to that table, we met pretty much all of them except for the landscaping. So in order to fit all of this that's going on to this site, we're willing to make that proposition for that variance in order to support this project.
And lastly, I still haven't understood the situation. So Starbucks is going to operate the existing business and will continue and then operate the new business concurrently with each other with no plans to shut down one or the other?
That is correct.
Okay.
And if I can ask the commission to focus your question in terms of the operation of the Starbucks and the ongoing, you can also speak to the applicant as well, and they can provide more information. But to help you to focus on the conversation, what we have here today is a CUP for a drive-through cafe. So the commission's generally reviews conditional use permit for a drive-through based on, the when, where, how, generally the time, place, and manner of a use. I would discuss any issues relating to that, but not necessarily the who. So if you can focus your conversation, discussion, and questions on the what, when, why, and where, and we can move forward with answering those questions.
So then what we're being asked to consider not the use of the building, but whether or not the building can have a drive-through. Is that the case?
Correct.
That's all for me. Thank you.
Yeah. This is my Starbucks in my area. This is my neighborhood Starbucks. It's always busy. I don't know if anyone's gone there. In the morning, it's like you try to get into that drive-through line and you might as well go inside or not go there at all. So for me, seeing a secondary building across the street with the drive-through access, with just the window access makes sense to me. I've seen it in different cities and it works, and there's a reason why I believe Starbucks is bringing it to us. And I think another thing that the commission should probably keep in mind is that this space, this lot has been vacant for 13 years. So we have a company that's willing to build a brand new building in Santa Ana to bring some sort of economic interest to our city. So I am just bringing that up just because it could be something good. But does the commission have any additional comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
I don't have any additional questions except to say that I live in that area also, and traffic leaving the existing Starbucks is very difficult. And so I understand your point. That's all I'm going to comment.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, I guess just, was there any thought to have, on-site seating or even just outdoor utilization of the space so that people can just grab a coffee and sit there for a few minutes? Or was this very much the applicant, and we might just wait for the applicant asking only for drive-through operations?
I think it was important, and it was a combined effort to make sure that this project meets all the right, check all the right boxes, and one of them was kind of community support. So you have kind of 3 entry points. We wanted to make sure that there was sidewalks from all 3 sides of the streets, able to access that outdoor space, so they could access that for the neighborhood and enjoy their coffee outside. And so they were in support of the walk-up window as well.
But I guess the question in my mind, though, is was there any request to also then have indoor use on the site by the applicant? And were there any difficulties in that happening? Or again, did we just kind of get initially approached with walk-up and only drive-through?
So we did raise that initial design concern with the applicant, and they can address it more specifically, but they did want it to specifically operate a drive-through model, and we did work with them to incorporate the outdoor seating area, understanding that the site is very limited as well, and that there's already a indoor seating area on the adjacent property to the south. Therefore, this was a separate model, but the applicant can also answer more specifically to what their requests.
Yeah, no, and again, for me, it's more just the overall flexibility of the site, so that, I believe that Starbucks analytics are probably amongst the most advanced of any corporation on this planet at this point. But, if there is any need for a different user or, different company down the road, just to allow that flexibility of use. So that's really the only question as to whether or not, there was the idea of also having on-site seating, on-site indoor seating. But I think that could be, I guess I just don't want us to tell any person in the future, 10, 15, 20 years from now, that we did not have, as a council, or sorry, as a commission, support for indoor seating at this location. I think it's in this particular design, it's not included. I wouldn't have been opposed to it even if it meant, losing 2 parking spots or something of that sort for the trade-off. Again, just to kind of allow for full flexibility of this site, so that other folks can potentially go in there after Starbucks is no longer there.
And I just want to give a quick, brief history of this site. This site is a remnant site from the widening of Bristol and the work on Warner at that intersection. This is a previously city-owned property that was disposed of by the city 2 years ago now. The site, as you can see, is quite restricted in terms of the incumbents of the power pole. The width of the site and the depth of the site and its location at the corner makes it very challenging. We have worked with the applicant on a number of other potential uses. However, we also have to evaluate the economic feasibility of something that can work there. So this is the proposal that they come up with, and we work with them on a project that is most feasible for the way the site is today. Can other uses go on the site? I'm sure it can, but this is what we have today, what you're considering today.
No, absolutely. And I think for me, it's just, again, we're looking at a 1,200 square foot building where on this specific site, we probably would have had about 5,000 square feet of indoor occupied space. So it's those trade-offs in what our code requires that, then results in projects like this. So again, just to reemphasize the point that the underlying rules probably do need to be looked at, because there are probably trade-offs where I would be more comfortable with additional space, a second unit, indoor use at the sacrifice of 2 or 3 or just some stacking distance. I think that's a reasonable trade-off. And I do hope that we do take that into consideration as we look at the zoning code updates to see what sort of adjustments would allow for that flexibility on the staff side.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Wu?
Can I follow up on a discussion that Commissioner Manning just got me thinking, and your guidance in terms of the usage and design? If that used to be a city property, surplus property from the widening, then one of the things the general plan asked for is more open space, which I think you were kind of going in that direction. Or if the applicant, in terms of purchasing the property, could put a use, can incorporate more foliage or something to make it a little more, less institutional and more neighborhood friendly, and a gathering respite after you've been riding on the bus so long. I'm gonna take a little refreshment here, grab a cup of coffee. or maybe meet some friends. It just sparks some thinking whether or not the applicant is willing to incorporate that in order to get this project done. Because the other alternative would be saying, let's do a little small park.
And thank you for your comment. A park would been another option the city could have gone with. However, as part of the process, the property has always been disposed and sold to a private owner, and they're here to seek for development of that as permissible under the code. So that's what we have to deal with today. I'm sure, hindsight, there's a lot of other different uses the city could consider, but it did get authorization by the city council to dispose of the property for private use.
And I saw the staff work with the applicant to try to incorporate more, but because of that, with the conditional use to lower that to allow for more parking, so we have less greenery, right, as a result? Or still, can that be accommodated?
Commissioner, in the Planning Commission packet, the landscape plan is included, features 8 on-site trees and 2 more street trees, so 10 trees for a site of this size. It's proportionate a little bit more than what a typical commercial development would provide the city. And in addition, staff always works closely with developers when a variance is being sought from landscape standards to make sure that if you're going to seek a reduction in that the density of the plant material that is proposed is greater at the onset to sort of compensate for that. So when looking at the landscape plan that's included in the packet, it does indicate that pretty clearly. In fact, going back to, I think it was Commissioner Benninger's point earlier too, even the pole that's going to be remaining will be located in a landscape planner with greenery around it. So it's not just a pole surrounded by dirt. So this applicant is the same that developed the Starbucks on Grand and I think it was Santa Clara or Fairhaven. And that one featured the public art, featured the landscaping, the berming, the architecture. So, staff has spent a considerable amount of time on this project, given the circumstances, the irregular lot shape and size, and
I
the
wanted to shine a
stipulations.
light on that.
Right, and the stipulations of the purchase and sale agreement that Director Tai mentioned that stipulated either construction of a drive-through restaurant or an electric vehicle parking lot.
Thank you. I just want to shine a light.
Commissioner Leo, comments for staff? Commissioner Pham? Oh, Commissioner Benninger.
At the risk of someone saying, "Oh, Carl," Bristol widening has not come down to this part of Bristol yet. Have they considered that what land is left are we okay for the Bristol widening when it comes down to that area?
The answer is yes.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, sorry, might be a question for the public works staff in the audience. So do we have any more detail on the pork chop design? I guess the two pieces I'm curious about is, will that just be all, public sidewalk, cement style? Is there anything decorative or any kind of wells going into that additional kind of area that juts out? And is that also in line with the kind of permanent, or at least not permanent, but target width of Warner Avenue? Or are we going to come back and say we got to take off this pork chop and then widen it just a little bit more? So I'm just unfamiliar with this particular segment of Warner as to whether or not there is additional widening on the books currently with the city, or if there is no plans for widening this section of Warner. I'm just unsure about that right now, because it just affects the pork chop design. That's really it. It's whether or not it comes in from the existing corner or it comes diagonally across. Again, I don't know what is the preferred solution from Public Works, but that's a question that I have on the design on the streets coming in with this. Sorry, I just see Public Works out there. I should have submitted ahead of time, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your question, Commissioner Escamilla. So the typical curb ramps will definitely be provided for. This plan in that area it's very conceptual, what has been shown there. It doesn't look 100% to scale. So at this time, it's just regular concrete. And that's where this is at this point.
And then on the width, so like where that, I guess, that pork chop and that little loop is, right, along Warner on the south
Yeah.
end, is that like pretty much the width that we're looking at for Warner in that section, or will that?
I believe so. I don't have that right at my fingertips because I was not anticipating a question there, but I should have.
Sorry, yeah, pork chops are just a little less common, I guess, but no,
Yeah.
it's totally okay. I just was trying to figure out as to whether or not that should be moved up, but if this is in the conceptual design, I guess.
It is much more conceptual. It does not look
Yeah.
like how it's going to actually be. It will be that it goes too far to the south, the curb line. So it is definitely going to be a slightly different design, and it has to go through the plan check process. And so at that time, we will make sure that everything is copacetic with what needs to comply. And if it didn't meet, we would be asking for dedications and those kinds of things too. So, so that should be sufficient, and we will make sure during the plan check process.
Yeah, works for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While you're,
We have another question by Commissioner Pham.
sorry, well, while you're
Yes.
up here,
Hi.
since we're closing off the residential street on
Yes.
the eastern side, are we concerned that the few residents are closer to the Starbucks? In order to get easy access to their home, they just go through the Starbucks lot to access their home on the other side of the lot, rather than going up Bristol?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right.
If they try to do that, they're not going to be able to make a left turn when they get to the east side of the site because of the raised median. You see that it's about 20 feet long. And we worked very closely with the developer to make sure that that is going to work in checking the truck turning templates and those kinds of things. So staff has spent some time looking at that very closely. And so again, through the plan check process, we will make sure. And there's also, it's right turn only when you come out of that driveway. So you cannot go into the neighborhood. Yeah. And that's what the neighborhood wanted.
Okay, that's
So, okay, thank you.
The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter?
Hello. Sorry, I'm not the best speaker. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Like a lot of the questions I heard you ask came up, ourselves when we were developing the site. If you're open to it, I want to kind of share a little bit of the history, kind of how it started, how we got here. And then I heard a lot of different questions I can maybe give some answers to what I've heard so far. So this project has truthfully been one of the most challenging I've ever worked on, because of the dimensions of the lot. Most lots are usually thicker, like wider. And when we get to a certain point, like this one, it becomes like you're trying to shove sardines into a can. It's so much into very little room. The staff, public works, planning, they've worked with me so much, in looking at every option here. This started as a Del Taco first, and I didn't think that was the best realization for the property. Starbucks approached us, because we had that relationship with them in the past. We built 2701 North Grand, which that one was also hard, but this one's harder. Built that one, they approached us. They told us that their existing location's too busy. They want a second drive-through to offload the pressure from the first one. Truthfully, I thought it was crazy, to have two drive-throughs at one intersection and the same side of the street. Just to me, it was I've never been asked that before. And so I visit the property, and it was like, so, in the mornings and evenings, it's so congested, the Starbucks, and so impacted that I was like, okay, this makes sense, right? We'll build this one. It'll offload the pressure from across the street. It'll make a safer intersection. And from what they've told me, and I've talked with them every 1 to 2 weeks for the past 2 years, is that they're going to keep both locations open. I'm not Starbucks, I'm just a developer, but they've always told me that they're planning on keeping both sites running. They have one cafe across the street. This one will be a drive-through only with the outdoor patio. And, you know, like, someone says something enough times, like, I'll believe them. You know, you know, Starbucks has people too, right? Are there any other questions I could help? Like, sorry, I get nervous when I do these discussions, but if you have any questions I can answer, let me know.
Commissioner Benninger, do you have any questions?
You're the developer of the site. Are you going to be the owner of the site?
Yes.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm just wondering, when you were initially conceptualizing the plan, was there anything specifically within our code? It does seem like the landscaping obviously is now one thing you're asking for a variance for, but was there anything specifically in the code that made the site even more difficult? I know you had a lot going on. It's the widths, landscaping, drive-through stacking, even I think distance of entry for your driveway to a major corner. So all of those things I think are at play here. Then you have your utility pole right in the middle. But was there anything else? Again, this is more just in general to get your feedback from the experience.
I would say the Santa Ana code. So I work in Santa Ana and I work in other cities too, like Downey and Maywood and Commerce. And I would say the Santa Ana code, I think, is pretty comparable in terms of being able to work with the city, right? So I don't think it's overly restrictive compared to what's surrounding. I'd say on this project, the code that really was impossible, like actually impossible to accommodate, was the landscape setbacks. So it wasn't regarding the total amount of landscaping to show on the site. It was more about there are rules of like X number of feet of landscaping on the sides, on the south, on the north. And our first layout of the project was to actually design it with accommodating the full setbacks. So we always try to make the code work. So the first go around was, let's apply all the code requirements on this. And if we did the landscape setbacks, it impacted this property so much that I couldn't make it work. And so we had to reduce the amount of setbacks, if I recall correctly, along Warner. And I don't know, maybe along Magnolia, I don't remember, but for sure on Warner, so we could have enough room for the driveways. You know, you have the parking stalls and then you have minimum driveway width that you need and proper circulation, and then you have the trash trucks that circulate through the property. And it's like what we're showing here is the absolute minimum that we needed. I like landscaping. Like I think it creates like a good environment. And like we're even proposing a tree in the covered patio area, you know, so it could be like a enclosed environment. It's a good question.
And I guess the only concern, I guess, or at least one concern that we received via public comment was just around, I guess, overall activity. So I don't think you're applying for any sort of late night operations, but I guess, is there any ability on your part to accept kind of what those operating hours are? Again, you maybe being the owner of the property, but not the operator of the business itself. I'm just trying to figure out, like, you know, are you guys done at 9, or is this going to be like a 5 a.m. till like 12 at night sort of operation?
I wish I was Starbucks,
Yeah.
the company, but not everyone's that lucky. What I remember is the original proposed operating hours by Starbucks were more than what's being proposed now. And I think they wanted to open earlier, maybe close later. And, you know, planning staff approached us and said, yeah, I think it's better we reduce these hours a little bit. So 5 a.m. to midnight. And, you know, I talked to Starbucks about it and they agreed. They agreed to reduce it to 5 a.m. to midnight, you know, which is, I think, the minimum that they can.
Well, I think that's the
operate.
maximum they can do, yeah.
Yeah.
Without going through another process. For late
Yes.
night eating, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Leo?
No question.
Commissioner Wu? Commissioner Pham?
No questions.
I don't have any questions either. Oh, well, no, I do have one question. The process for selecting an artist for the public art, are we approaching Santa Ana artists first?
Yes. We did that for 2701 North Grand. And if you could work with us again, I want to hire again.
Oh, sorry, that's a shout out for Marina Aguilera, the artist. Sorry. She did good work over there, man.
Marina's incredible. Yes.
Okay. The public hearing, recording secretary, have we received any written communication, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have received 2 public comments prior to the 3:30 PM deadline. The public comments have been published online, and we are also going to pass out some copies. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself once you're called. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. We have someone on Zoom. Angela, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Angela Vera, and I'm a property homeowner here in the street of Magnolia. I've been living in the street for approximately 25 years or so. It's been, I was born and raised here in the city, and it's been good so far. But I do have to mention some concerns that I'm worried about. I did submit a petition letter to the commission and board. And a few years ago, a few of the businesses that were blocked off from the west side of Magnolia were blocked off with the promise of, yes, the street of Bristol was going to be added additional traffic lines. In addition to that, that has not happened. And what has only cost in this street of Magnolia and the residents who are living on the west side is that there has been subjects jumping over the wired fence, people loitering over the area, people screaming at night, people tagging, which have been a lot of disrupting the peace of the people living on the streets. Some of my major concerns of having an additional Starbucks across from one that it's already built, it's the traffic that's only going to be happening here on Magnolia. Parking is already an issue here on the street. As any other household in the city of Santa Ana, there's multiple families living in one house, which brings additional vehicles, 5 vehicles per family, 6 vehicles per family, creating a parking issue. Now, with these additional parking spots being built at the Starbucks location, I could only think of those when a Starbucks location is already busy enough, meaning people are going to be parking on the street and walk it to the Starbucks location. That's one of my issues and concerns. Along with that, a lot of the traffic that's going to be causing people entering off from St. Gertrude, going south of Magnolia to enter off from Warner and enter off from Bristol. Reminds me of the In-N-Out down on MacArthur and Bristol. The line goes down all the way from MacArthur, all the way to go in onto Bristol. In addition to that, yes, it's a beautiful thing that you guys want to add a patio to it, but think about the Starbucks that's located right across from it. That patio no longer exists because of the homelessness issues that we've been having in the city. I'm a police officer, I work for the city, and I could testify on this. I've responded to multiple times to not only Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, of subjects being extremely under the influence, of being under the influence, of being drugged, mental health, which causes people, families, to feel very uncomfortable in these situations and not want to sit down. So this is my concern with my neighborhood, that this will be happening in this Starbucks. I'm scared of encampments happening in this street because at night, if you guys do close off
Thank you so
Starbucks.
much for your comment, Angela. Your time is up. But thank you for your comment, and we did receive your written comment. Do we have any additional speakers online?
We don't have any additional speakers.
The public hearing is now closed. Does the commission wish to speak further on this matter, or do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve.
Is there a second? I'll second. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo,
No.
Commissioner Pham,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos, Chair Oliva.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Vice Chair Ramos absent and Commissioner Leo dissenting, sorry.
This is the time and place for vesting tentative track map number 2024-02 and density bonus agreement number 2024-02 for the property located at 510 and 520 North Harbor Boulevard, located within the Harbor Mixed Use Transit Corridor Specific Plan, SP2 zoning district. Before we begin, do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, Nancy Tran will provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Chair. And just for the record, Commissioner Leo departed the meeting at 6:35 p.m. I'd just like to give a quick introduction to Senior Planner Nancy Tran. She joined our department in January of last year. She has a wonderful range of experience under her belt, having worked previously for the city of Lafayette and San Francisco up north, and then Worcester, Massachusetts. She has a bachelor's degree in community and regional development from UC Davis and a master's in urban planning from UCLA. Fun fact, we went to undergrad together, and she is a Santa Ana resident native. So we're very happy to have her on board, and this is her first commission meeting with our community.
Thank you, Ellie. Good evening, Commissioners, Nancy Tran, Planning Department staff. The items before you are vesting tentative track map number 2024-02 and density bonus agreement 2024-02. The developer is City Ventures, and they propose a project to demolish an existing 1,400 square foot sales building and construct a 45-unit attached for sale townhome development with 5 units proposed as affordable to moderate income levels at the intersection of 5th Street and Harbor Boulevard in Ward 1. Staff's recommendations are to adopt resolutions approving both vesting tentative track map and density bonus agreement. The subject property's general plan designation is Urban Neighborhood 50. It is within the Harbor Mixed Use Transit Corridor Specific Plan zoning district and subzone corridor. Surrounding land uses vary, with commercial to its north, east, and south, and is abutting residential to its south and west. The site consists of 2 parcels, 510 and 520 North Harbor, and totals approximately 1.9 acres after right-of-way easements. This is a site photo along the harbor frontage. There will be 45 units in 9 buildings, mostly 3 stories, with the exception of a 2-story unit at its southeast corner. Approximately 11,700 square feet of combined common and private open space. Units will be family size, approximately 1,450 to 1,900 square feet, ranging from 3 to 4 bedrooms and 2.5 to 4.5 bathrooms. All units will have 2-car garages, a mix of side-by-side and tandem configuration, and there will be 9 open-air guest spaces for a total of 99 parking spaces on site. On-site bicycle parking will also be provided. The vesting tentative tract map request is to subdivide for townhome ownership and is subject to Planning Commission approval. However, residential development is allowed by right in the zoning district. In addition to the subdivision, a concession and waivers from development standards are requested under the state density bonus law. This is a site plan of the project with the entrance off of 5th Street. These are typical floor plans. And here are elevations of off of Harbor and 5th Street, and elevations from the north and west. And this is a conceptual landscape plan showing proposed species, trees along the street, fronting the units, and throughout the site, as well as in the interior common open space. This slide is a refresher on the state density bonus, which is a state law that encourages development of affordable housing in new developments. It allows up to 5 concessions depending on the percent of affordability provided and unlimited waivers, both of which are deviations from development standards. With the state density bonus law, a local jurisdiction is limited in its ability to deny requested concessions and waivers. This project is submitted as a state density bonus project with 5 units proposed to be sold at the moderate income level, earning 80 to 120% of the area median income and subject to a 55-term affordability. Based on the percentage of affordable units proposed, the developer is eligible for a 5% bonus or 3 units above what is allowed by the general plan. However, no bonus of units are sought. One concession, they are also eligible for 1 concession and unlimited waivers. The project will provide 99 spaces or 2.2 spaces per unit, which is in compliance with and actually exceeding the state density and local requirements. This table summarizes the deviations from development standards required in the zoning district. The developer is seeking 1 concession for building frontage design with respect to ground floor height, porch depth, and width. And they're seeking 3 waivers for common open space area, private open space area, and private open space dimensions. Overall, the project satisfies the purpose of the state density bonus law and harbor-specific plan. It's compatible with the scale of other residences in the area. The deviations from building frontage requirements are compensated with the project's enhanced architecture, articulation, and materials, and the deviations from open space requirements are compensated, providing ample programming, landscaping, and amenities in the common open space area. The project will develop additional housing on an underutilized site and provides additional home ownership and affordable housing opportunities. As part of the conditions of approval, a property maintenance agreement and parking management plan will be required to address any potential negative impacts. The vesting tentative tract map is consistent with the Subdivision Map Act and the city's municipal code. The project provides additional home ownership opportunities, which is consistent with the goals and policies of the city's housing element. The project is exempt from CEQA as it meets the eligibility for residential infill and the threshold requirements for exemptions under Section 15195 and 15192. There is no fiscal impact associated with this project. Since publication of the staff report, staff received 2 public comments supporting the project, which I believe is available for distribution. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolution approving vesting tentative map number 2024-02 as condition and adopt resolution for density bonus agreement number 2024-02 as condition. This concludes my presentation, and I am available for questions. Additionally, the applicant as well as staff from the Housing Division are also present to provide further clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
Yes, please. I might have missed it. How many bedrooms are in each one of these units?
It varies from 3 to 4.
The corner of Fifth Street and Harbor, it looks like a little grassy area. Is there any sort of design or landscaping design for that corner?
I believe in the conceptual plan or the landscape plan, it shows some landscaping in that area.
Is there a name for this project?
They call it Santa Ana-8. There's no official name.
We couldn't have a fancy name out there in front, 5 doors or whatever. I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I guess that's one of my concerns is that it's in a major corner, but it is a corner, and just like to see some beautification. I like the idea of a tree and some landscaping, but just really like to see that stand out as something special.
Thank you.
One other question too, this garbage disposal, where is that on the site?
It is on the northern side, adjacent to the common open space. Yes. So it is numbered 4 right here.
And that's for the entire site?
Yes.
That's all of my questions.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I guess just for just trying to visualize what we're accepting for the density bonus agreement concessions. So I guess on the site plan, I guess if we can just kind of walk through them, just, I guess one by one, what are we doing the exceptions for? It looks like this is the landscape plan, so. Do we have like anything where just the concessions themselves are kind of just like pointed out on the either site plan or just nothing visually, right? Because we're like, so ground floor height, that would be on both Harbor and Fifth, I
Yes.
presume? Okay. And then the dimensions and the depth, is that also then just all the porches along those two sites? Along those two elevations of both?
Correct.
Okay. Porches. I guess I was curious about this. I was unsure as to what was going on with the porches that we're also making exception for. I got no issues. I was just trying to visualize what we are proposed to allow and accept.
So the harbor-specific plan is very specific on porch types. There are requirements for the height, the ground floor height, and the depth of it from the right-of-way. So they're not providing the minimum 6-foot depth because of the floodplain, and as well, they're providing asymmetrical entries, and with the amount of units, they would have to reconfigure the entire
So the harbor plan actually calls for symmetrical entryways.
It could be symmetrical or asymmetrical. If they were going to do symmetrical, it would require 12 feet, actually.
Oh, okay. No, that all totally makes sense to me. And again, just procedurally, so the development can happen by right. We are involved as a planning commission on the track map and on the agreement. Was there any kind of delay on this project, like, or anything we could have done to speed up? Because those look like relatively minor concessions, so I don't know if there is any thought of allowing certain, if these are going to be kind of common asks as to whether or not we're looking to speed up or allow staff to have jurisdiction around these kind of small issues, right? So porch depth and width seem to be fairly small.
I like the way you think. We are looking at how we can do that in the future. In fact, our city attorney, legal counsel, and us discussed this very morning on strategy to that in the future. As it stands today, the answer is no. But with that thinking in mind, we will look at doing something in the future that would address our current density bonus ordinance to essentially be in compliance with state law.
Okay, yeah, because it seems like the density wasn't even necessarily for the density at this side, it was more for the allowance on the concession side of things, and I'm sure legally we still have to send it over to council, but, for these relatively minor objective design changes, it seems like, staff should be empowered to make that call. Again, if the full intent of the harbor plan is to add urbanized housing, it seems like this is perfectly in line with that.
Commissioner Wu?
Well, I think the trade-off is that you have, I think, 3 or 4 ADA units. And this is a very Spartan project in terms of green space, but it's consistent with what we're doing up and down Harbor, since it's transit orient in terms of these townhomes where you're building up. I am concerned that if you have 3 to 5 bedrooms?
3 to 4.
3 to 4 bedroom. That kind of suggests that there's room for family or 2 professionals. But whatever the case may be, where will the children play? Are they allowed to have pets and those kind of things? But because we're giving them the density bonus to get more affordable units in there, that's the trade-off we have. Best you can, given the, it's better than the used car lot that was. So we are dressing up Harbor into being a more urban-driven city. So hopefully in the future, we could get some other development where it's restaurant, entertainment, gathering places up in that Harbor. So it's just not all these strings of apartment, but someplace for people to go and walk to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pham?
Well, welcome, Nancy. I like to say, I'll be missing the taco truck that parks at that corner. So I'll just put in a word for that. Other than that, from my reading of the site plan on Harbor Boulevard, I'm assuming we have the several steps up due to the floodplain that the building pad needs to be raised up.
That's correct.
There's going to be a landscape retaining wall, retaining area.
I believe so, yes.
Will there be a kind of guardrails or some type of fencing?
They will have fencing,
Okay,
yes.
that's what I would encourage, just because I know that City Ventures have done a few other projects along Harbor Boulevard. I think that obviously we want to encourage a lively streetscape on Harbor Boulevard, but just, for the usage issue. Front doors are facing the right-of-way. People are getting the packages delivered. And so we want to be considerate of that as well, because it looks great without any kind of protection. But then the lived reality of it is if people are getting the packages delivered, people can just walk, on the right-of-way and they just kind of pick it up, right? I would encourage kind of projects similar to this to kind of operationally think about that as well in terms of the usage of it. And then just for my clarification, the density bonus is asking for concessions on development standards, but not an increase in density and unit count. Is
That's
that correct? Okay. That's all for me. Yeah.
Welcome. My question is, for access, is the access is on Fifth Street, correct, to enter the space?
Yes, for vehicles. There is going to be a pedestrian access off of Harbor through a gate.
Oh, okay. But that's going to be the only entry point, the only exit point, that's it?
Yes.
Okay, and then will we have speed bumps anywhere along the street area in front of the buildings? Only because, people speed if there's going to be families in the area. Like, what safety measures are we taking?
They're not proposing that in their site plan, but I could defer to the applicant.
Perfect, thank you. The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter?
Good evening. I'm Kim Pritchett with City Ventures, Senior Vice President. I have worked on all of our Santa Ana projects to date. And as Nancy said, this is Santa Ana 8, but that will not be the name of the project. It will have a name, it just doesn't have one yet. But we obviously love Santa Ana. We've built here a ton and would love to keep building here. We do all for sale projects. This will be our 4th in the corridor, the Harbor Corridor. So to date, we've built 20 affordable units as part of our first 3 projects in the corridor, and this will be another 5, so that would be 25 affordable units in the Harbor Corridor for sale. And I know a lot of the projects are rental, so we take pride in building the units on site, not paying the in lieu fee. It's something that we've always done. It's always been part of City Ventures. So yeah, we did go beyond the 5% required to the 10%. More because it is the harbor specific plan. It does get very difficult to meet every single development standard and still at least maintain the density that we need to, which is the density allowed within the code, but to maintain that in order to be able to provide the 5 affordable units. So that is why we've waived, but we do have private open space for every single unit. It's just we needed to waive in some cases the minimum dimension to get to that. So they may not have 6 by 10 or whatever, but they'll have a patio. If it's shy of that, though, that requires a waiver. So in the common open space, we do have it programmed with a community barbecue, picnic benches, some passive landscape area for kids to play, or just people to hang out there, shade structure. So it will be a very nice kind of courtyard area for the whole HOA to use. And then we do have that pedestrian gate out to Harbor. It will be locked so that it will be residents only, so people walking down Harbor can't cut through the community, so it would be a resident-only kind of gate in so that they can gain access out without having to walk all the way around. And then just to address at the corner, so we did really look into that corner. We worked with staff. We had many iterations of the plan. There was some concern with having a big landscape area at that corner because if kids are playing there, and that is a very busy intersection with a lot of left turn movements from Fifth or from Harbor onto Fifth. And there was some concern that, you know, if someone were to miss it or hit the wall, that would put people in jeopardy. So we do have that nice landscape area at the corner. And then we have a 2-story unit there, which is the only 2-story unit on the site with a wraparound porch, because we really wanted to enhance that elevation. There's stone on the elevation and it'll look really nice with that, also that corner cutout landscaping. So we definitely paid a lot of attention to that area and staff asked us to do that. So, and then with regards to the private patios fronting the street. So we won't have retaining walls. There is slope up to the unit, so there will be steps up with a slope and then just a patio wall to privatize the area for the residents. And the height of that will meet the requirement of the specific plan. So the design team is here to answer any additional questions. Thank you for having us, and I'll be here as well.
Commissioner Benninger, any questions for the applicant?
I just follow up on your question. When you say a minimum height for the patios, we're looking, is that 6 foot or what's that?
36 inches? Yeah, it's a 36-inch patio wall.
Okay.
Commissioner Escamilla.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question. You might not get all the time, but was there anything that prevented you from getting more units on site? So like just as far as like providing additional home opportunities, I do think that townhouses and condos are really going to be that entry point for most kind of new homeowners that are kind of getting into the market. So was there any specific considerations that limited your ability to maybe add units, right? So you qualify for the additional density already by what you're doing. Is it just that the width and design, you know, you can't really create a livable space if you try to add them or try to add additional units? Was it just that the drive aisles were too wide? You know, what was the, I guess, restriction on the site for adding units at this point?
So coming in, we're an infill developer. We always look at the surroundings and what's appropriate for the site. We also, you know, we recognize to get more density, we would probably have to go higher. And with the mobile homes to one side, and it just, looking at the area, it didn't seem appropriate to do that. And we also try to stick as close to the code as we can. So within the specific plan, there's only a certain amount of tandem parking spaces, garage spaces that are desired. So we try to stick to that as close as possible. So we have a mix of tandem and side-by-side parking here. We would have to go to like an all tandem type scenario to gain density. And we know that's not what the city wants. And you know, it's not what all buyers want either. So, you know, this we felt like was the best product type for the area.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess just overall, you know, I guess there was definitely the active decision to use the moderate, moderate affordability as kind of, you know, for your project. Have you had any issues? I know we I guess in the past had issues with maybe the low income subsidized for sale products. Have you just generally seen any issues with making sure that the moderate units, that people can still qualify for them? You know, just even if they are moderately affordable, then sometimes just on the back end, getting someone to get or qualify for a mortgage to then be able to make the payment, it can be somewhat difficult. I'm just wondering if there has been any issues that you've seen with this type of product.
We're always able to find buyers, but I will say we do have to go through the pre-qualification process with quite a few buyers to get one. So, you know, and then, you know, we'll pre-qualify and then submit them to the housing department and they'll review it even more thoroughly. And then once we get their approval. So, yeah, it's not always easy to find that buyer. And I think, you know, we do go through quite a few applications, but we always do. And they're you know, those buyers are well educated and have an agreement, obviously, that lets them know what they need to do when they sell to the next home buyer, that it will remain affordable and will need to also go through that same qualification process.
Perfect. And just one more quick question. So on that north side, there's that little bit of that landscape gap. So I just kind of curious, I can't really tell from this set of plans, you know, kind of where it's gated at. I just don't want that to become a dead space. So it's like that north, I guess it would Oh, elevate something. Sorry, the northeast of the site, there's just that little section where there's still a little bit of landscaping. It's not quite the walkway, but it is that little buffer.
Just along that
Yeah, just that little
north
tiny
end, that would be walled.
Walled.
That's not an open,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and the wall will go along with like the patio, again, just to avoid.
Yeah, it'll kind
penetration.
of die into the patio wall. Correct? That little 5-foot area, it's not an open area to the public, so
Yeah.
people can't go back there.
Yeah, because I know, just like you make that 1 to 2 foot like change and it'll, impact what happens there, I guess. It's just, yeah, so whatever you can do to bring that forward and just to avoid a dead space, that's
Yeah,
really it.
yeah, it won't be that open or available to the outside.
Commissioner Wu? Commissioner Pham?
I noticed that I think three or four of your ADA units are kind of towards the end, the back of the lot. Asking the occupant to cross 2 drive aisles to access their unit. Is there a possibility of congregating the ADA units to be as close to the 2 provided ADA parking stalls as possible? Is that a consideration?
I can, the civil engineer is here, and I can defer to her, but I do know that we try as hard as we can to do that. But on this site, this site is identified in the FEMA map as in the flood zone. We're working with them right now to process whether it be a CLOMAR or an amendment. We're not sure which yet. We're still trying to, we're kind of going back and forth. It is shown on the flood map, so we're working with them, but I think our engineer believes that it may not actually need to be raised, that we actually meet the base flood elevation requirement, but per the map, we don't. So we're in that review period with them right now, but we've designed it to be out of the flood zone, so that with working with those grades would kind of dictate where we can get the ADA accessibility into the unit. But Joy can better describe how we located those if you would.
I mean, I just want to, I'm not sure if this is a set site plan. I was just going to offer a suggestion, if you were able to kind of congregate all the ADA units to be kind of towards the middle of the lot where you are locating your ADA stalls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should she come up now or to
Well,
address that?
More just a comment if you could, but I'm not asking you to do so.
Oh, okay,
I'm just
yeah.
asking for the kind of the reason.
I rely on the experts for that, so.
Yeah. Other than that, I would just also kind of comment that the trash of each unit, is it an in-unit trash bins that are being?
No, we have trash enclosures, because for multifamily, the city of Santa Ana doesn't, and the refuse company, we can't do individual trash. So there are 2 trash enclosures up on either side of the common open space at the north end there. So on either side of the parking, the guest parking, there are trash enclosures. So everyone will bring their trash there.
If that's the case, I also would recommend, just because I know a few friends and families who've lived in the area, and there's been issues with just the surrounding areas. Some people might be dumping trash into the community trash enclosure. So I would recommend to kind of look into ways
Locking
to
them or
protect it.
something?
Right.
Okay, okay.
I don't believe you have gate.
No, it's not
access to
gated.
the site, right? Those are all my comments. Thank you.
My comment is only safety on the driving areas, but if you've built, previous projects in Santa Ana, that hasn't been an issue. It was just a question I had.
Yeah, I mean, once you're driving in there, it is, the streets are fairly narrow, and I think people, like, it probably looks bigger on the site, but once you're driving within that community, they're fairly short streets and narrow, so we haven't been aware of that being a problem. So the HOA can always install signage or something within the tract for people to slow down if that does become an issue.
Thank you. Does the commission have any additional questions? Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, and this might be for you or for staff, but just looking to see was there any consideration for any kind of live work along the harbor side, or is that just like it's still possible. I know there's probably slightly different building codes would apply for any kind of commercial utilization, and then it impacts your ADA, like bathrooms and everything, so.
We discussed it with staff for this particular site because of the FEMA issue and because of the fact that we're currently showing a 2-foot raise of the site. We can't get ADA accessibility into any of the units that are fronting. And so we do have another project we're working on where we are proposing the live work just down the street, and it's not in the flood zone. So this particular site, we just weren't able to get that accessibility into those units.
Okay, yeah, and again, just because I do like that flexibility of uses, like wherever we can install that early on.
Yeah,
it's
it was
nice.
brought up to us for sure, yeah.
Okay, and I guess some good news on the FEMA side. I think the county is doing some major upgrades to the West Garden Grove channel. I think it's like a $300 million upgrade, so a lot of folks will be out of the FEMA plane 10 years' time from now.
Yeah, this
But it'll
would be
take a while.
we've done one other project within the corridor where we had a Lomar, so, we'll see what happens here, but that's great news. Because the map is odd.
It is,
It
yeah.
kind of goes along in a weird swirly way, and
But it is the highest danger zone in our city for sure, like flooding.
yeah.
Thank you. Recording Secretary, have we received any written communication, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have received 3 public comments prior to the 3:30 deadline. They have been published on the website, and copies are being distributed to the commission. If you are attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait for a few seconds. Chair, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Does the commission wish to speak on this matter, or are we ready for a motion?
I'm ready to move, but
Well,
no question yet.
Of course, Commissioner Pham.
This is more for staff. I'm sure there will be a additional design review of the building design, I'm assuming. So I just want to add a note that, because this is kind of in my wards, I drive up and down a lot. What I often notice with newer developments is that obviously there are balconies facing the public right of way, but there seems to be a lack of consideration for drainage of those balconies, which then, if you drive up and down Harbor, you'll see that a lot of the exterior walls are stucco finish, and you have the balconies finished with stucco underneath. And so with rain or people having potted plants, things like that, when they're watering it, it'll drain, and it's not being collected prior to the running off the exterior wall, which then starts staining the stucco, which I know obviously, the HOA will take care of it every 5-6 years of power washing, but just as a overall look on Harbor Boulevard, I think it's something that we need to consider.
Commissioner, thank you. I would just say from experience, having worked with City Ventures, they build top-rated products, but I would say that is a unique construction feature to have drainage concealed within the structure as opposed to like sheet drainage off the edge. So if that is of importance, I would recommend that you condition it, not make it as a note.
I would be amicable to it, because I know that one of City Ventures' other project on Harbor initially did not have catch drainage, but then I think someone brought it up, and now there is drainage, so I would be amicable to adding that condition to the approval if it is approved.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with adding that as a potential condition, but I think we need to hear from the applicants to see if they're okay with that.
Open.
You can open up the public hearing real quickly just to take in a response.
We will open up the public hearing again.
All right, so anyone from, I guess, the applicant, if you're okay conferring, okay.
I believe you have a project on McFadden and Harbor, the currently almost finished project, that your balcony does have a catch or a gutter system that's attached to the balcony. I wouldn't ask for an internal drain because I know that's costly, but an exterior gutter.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wasn't understanding, if this was something interior, if you
I think
want.
exterior is more cost effective.
Yeah, if that's,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And now we'll close the public hearing again. Is there a motion to approve this matter with the condition, condition that Commissioner Pham is proposing? So you're making the motion.
Well,
No, if you want to make the motion with the addition, either way, I'll second it. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed resolution with amendment to add external drainage solution to the balconies of the projects.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye?
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Pham,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos, Chair Oliva.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Leo absent and Vice Chair Ramos absent.
This is the time and place for zoning ordinance amendment number 2024-03 to amend Article 2, Use Districts of Chapter 41, Zoning of the Santa Ana Municipal Code in compliance with the changes to state law pertaining to accessory dwelling units. Before we begin, do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, Ricardo Soto will provide a brief presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. The item before you is zoning ordinance amendment number 2024-3. The zoning ordinance is proposed to amend Chapter 41 of the Santa Ana Municipal Code. Specifically, it will make changes to the city's local ADU ordinance. If adopted, the ordinance would apply citywide. The recommended action before you today is to recommend that the City Council approve this zoning ordinance amendment. The proposed update to the local ADU ordinance is in direct response to changes to state ADU law brought about by Senate Bill 1211. SB 1211 was signed into law late September of this year and will take effect January 1, 2025. SB 1211 makes 3 key changes to state ADU law. First, it increases the number of ADUs that can be permitted on lots developed with multifamily buildings. Second, it prohibits local jurisdictions from requiring replacement spaces of uncovered parking spaces when demolished due to the construction of an ADU. And third, it makes clarifying edits and provides a definition for livable space. In total, staff is recommending 5 changes to the local ADU ordinance, 3 of which are in response to changes to state ADU law, and 2 are clarifying edits that are non-substantive and needed for administration of the ordinance. The first proposed change relates to the number of ADUs on sites developed with multifamily buildings. The zoning code currently permits up to 2 detached ADUs on multifamily sites. SB 1211 will permit up to 8 detached ADUs on lots with existing multifamily buildings, not to exceed the number of existing units on the lot, and up to 2 detached ADUs on lots that are proposed to be developed with a multifamily building. The proposed amendment would mirror state law and permit up to 8 detached ADUs on lots with existing multifamily buildings, not to exceed the number of primary units on the lot, and up to 2 detached ADUs on lots proposed to be developed with multifamily. The second change relates to uncovered off-street parking. The zoning code currently permits the conversion of covered off-street parking into an ADU without requiring the replacement of those lost spaces, but does not make the same exemption for uncovered parking spaces. SB 1211 extends the replacement parking exemption that previously only applied to cover off-street parking converted to an ADU to uncovered parking spaces. The proposed amendment would include a definition for uncovered parking spaces and extend the replacement parking exemption to uncovered parking as required by state law. The third change, triggered by changes to state law, is the definition and use of the term livable space. The zoning code does not currently define livable space as used in the ADU ordinance. Instead, uses the term non-habitable in regulating ADU conversions of space as part of a multifamily building. SB 1211 clarifies that the space within a unit that are part of a multifamily building that are used for habitation, such as areas for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, or sanitation, are considered livable space and are not permitted to be converted into an ADU. The proposed amendment would add a definition for livable space and prohibit these types of areas from being converted into an ADU as required by state law. The last two changes are clarifying edits that are non-substantive. SB 477, which was also approved this year, reorganized the government code and created a new chapter that consolidated ADU laws into a new section. The existing ADU ordinance references the old government code sections, and the proposed amendment would reference the new code sections. Lastly, the current ADU ordinance uses the term requirements in clarifying what size limits apply to conversions of existing accessory structures into ADUs. The proposed amendment would replace the term requirements with limits to clarify that the size limits that apply to new ADUs do not apply to ADUs that are being constructed through the conversion of an existing accessory building. The proposed amendments are consistent with general plan goals and policies to provide a balance of land uses to meet the city's diverse housing needs, preserving and improving neighborhood character through rehabilitation and investment, and preserving the character and integrity of existing neighborhoods and districts. Moreover, this project is exempt from CEQA. As such, a notice of exemption will be filed upon adoption of this ordinance. And with that, based on the analysis provided in the staff report and the presentation tonight, staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt an ordinance to approve zoning ordinance amendment number 2024-3 to amend Chapter 41 related to accessory dwelling units. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Escamilla?
No questions other than, so fairly understanding of, I guess, the changes that are being proposed here. More than anything, I guess it would just be, I don't know how much discussion this will have at City Council, but for me, I guess it'd be useful to know what are these areas where there might be some local flexibility to decide. I think for the most part, we're just meeting standards and it's like very prescriptive. And I don't think that we have any flexibility on really changing any of this, even if we were like to study it or decide. So as long as that's the case, just be like, this is what the state is saying. In my mind, I was just reading through and trying to see like, is there anything that does require any sort of decision-making process by us, or if everything is strictly to the state. I'm seeing some nods, but I guess we need to get the audio.
That's correct. So the zoning ordinance before you tonight is strictly to amend the local ordinance to comply with changes to state law.
Okay, all right, that's it.
Commissioner Wu?
I understand trying to conform to the state law and having our local. In practice, as you implement it, due to the lot sizes in our community, they vary. There are many, like my neighborhood, were just squashed in together. And how would that be implemented by staff when you're looking at approving? You're going to measure every little inch and all that, or?
You bring up a great point. Of course, the wisdom of the state and our state legislature always make very wise legislation, and they study every issues of every cities. I'm being a little facetious, but it is difficult for us to evaluate how this can potentially impact our city, but I would imagine that with the language being the way it is, it's quite permissive. It will definitely add more units to existing properties and will definitely impact our neighborhoods in negative ways that the state have not addressed.
I was just thinking that it will come up more where it's going to be our job to say yes or no, and then really stretching, finding a reason not to say no. Because I think we're very pro housing,
We absolutely are.
and we're doing more than our share. But then some things don't make sense in terms of, like I want to add it on. The question is, where do I put it, right? Do I put it right in front of the house, or on the side, which, looks onto a busy street?
For a single-family home, it's pretty clear. When you have multifamily development, my experience is that the majority of the time, a lot of these properties have already been developed to its maximum feasible, capacity of the lot. And oftentimes, the addition of additional dwelling units is going to either infringe upon open space, infringe upon existing parking, whether cover or uncover.
Or go up.
And they would definitely have to work within the envelope per se, but the amenities will be lessened.
So staff's going to have to do a lot of homework beforehand, and we will have to really look at it too, right?
It will have to be evaluated based on a case-by-case basis on how we can best address the state law and still minimize the impact to our community.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fan?
Yeah. The mechanics of, it goes into effect, state statute goes into effect 1st of January.
January 1st.
But this won't go in front of council until later.
That's correct. There will
January.
be a gap. However, during the gap process, we will rely upon state law, which is very consistent with what we already have. But you're correct, this ordinance won't take place until it has a second reading and 30 days after that.
Okay.
I have no questions. The public hearing is now open. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter? We're not doing this, correct? Yeah. Recording secretary, have we received any written communication, or is there a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have not received public comment prior to the 3:30 PM deadline. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait for a few seconds. Here, we do not have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to recommend that the city council approve this matter?
I'd like to make that motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Benninger. Is there a second?
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and second.
I have a second by Commissioner Escamilla. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Pham,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ramos, Chair Oliva.
Aye.
Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioners Leo and Vice Chair Ramos absent.
That concludes the public hearing. Moving on to staff comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. As the year drawing to an end, I just want to say happy holidays, and I wish everyone a wonderful and relaxful holiday season, as well as the upcoming new year. Thank you for all your support throughout this year. We, in my opinion, have had a very successful year in terms of what this commission and working with your staff have been able to accomplish, what you have supported and sent forth to the city council, especially with some of the projects that were recently approved. I'm proud to work for the city, and I'm proud to be a part of your staff. And I wish you a very wonderful holiday with your family, as well as the community. I wish the community a happy holiday as well.
Just echo what Director Tai said, and I continue to implore all commissioners, when you get emails from the recording secretary to confirm your attendance, please respond so that we know we have quorum. I'm going to say this every year as your New Year's resolution. Thank you.
Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
I'd just like to reemphasize what has already been said, and that everyone have a very safe and happy holiday season. We'll see everyone in January.
Commissioner Scamilla.
Yeah, just want to thank staff for what I do think is another good year of work. Obviously, I think there's a lot that goes into development in the city that a lot of people don't see, and I know that you all have to deal with the issues day to day, and figuring out the complex intricacies of all these overlapping laws and jurisdictions and different policy considerations. But I do think that overall, you guys do an amazing, wonderful job, and just wish you all the best, both personally, professionally, and then to our newest, well, not newest member, but Nancy, welcome back home since you're raised here and now are back to help planning. Just thanks for being on the team here. And then on a substantive note, something for staff to maybe consider and take a look at. There was a really interesting permitting streamlining select committee from the State Assembly. They met over in LA on, I want to say November 13th, but they had some really interesting recommendations. Essentially, it boiled down to copy and paste the city of San Diego's permitting process is maybe one way to kind of streamline local housing production. So that was a takeaway. It might have been because they had a representative from the city of San Diego's mayor's office on there. But either way, it seemed as though there was some general consensus that beyond just the entitlement procedures, also having to do with the way that the building plan check process was occurring over there, that it did help speed up some of their from concept to construction timeline, and it might be worth taking a look at to see if there is anything that's applicable here. So I will send the link if you send me an email to remind me, but I have it right here, and I just don't know how to send it to you other than via email, which I guess I'll do right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu.
On a personal note, I want to thank staff for being as great as you guys are and doing your homework. I really mean that. And welcome to our new staff there. Did a great job. I was scared to death going down to the planning department to pull a permit to repipe my house. Really, I was just shaking. I was nervous. I was afraid of all being interrogated and how long it would take. It took 5 minutes, and the staff really, really was great at the desk and explained the full procedure, gave me some options and things that I didn't think about. So the desk is very, friendly, and I just wanted you to know whoever, we see some people that ban the desk from time to time up here making presentations, so I know that you guys do both sides of the desk, and it was really a nice experience going through that. But I have to confess, I was scared at first, and I didn't pull out my commissioner card to get to the front of the line and all that. So I just wanted to tell you that the everyday thing that our staff here on the clerical side do to get us to the meeting, I want to thank you guys, because sometimes it is like pulling teeth getting a quorum. Although our quorum is better than some of the other commissions that I know that gets constantly canceled because people don't bother to respond. So Happy New Year. Looking forward to having a Happy New Year and not being deported back to China. Thank you.
Commissioner Pham.
Happy holidays, and then also kudos to Building Planning Public Works on the online submittal. As a practicing architect, I very much appreciate it, and I'm so glad that Santa has, I think for the most part, all transitioned to online submittal, so that's very encouraging. I appreciate it.
Want to wish staff a happy holiday and hope y'all get some rest. Y'all do really good work, so thank you so much for having all these meetings prepped for us, all these notes, all these presentations. Y'all are amazing. But with that said, this meeting is now adjourned. The next regular meeting is scheduled for January 13th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m.